What's up, everybody? And today we're reacting to something a little bit different. We're reacting to Krampus, exploring the legend of the Christmas demon. This is by Mythology and Fiction Explained. Any excuse to react to some horror stuff, guys, you know I will take it up. I love reacting to horror stuff, and with it being Christmas, there's always some weird story about a horror thing happening during Christmas. And what better than Krampus and learning more about Krampus? So I'm really excited to watch this. It's about 15 minutes long, so it's going to be a good one, I feel. But before we get started, as per usual, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for you members, so thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. Links down below to all the usual stuff: Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, apart from tomorrow, which is Christmas, where I'll be having the day off. I'll also leave a link down below to the OG video. Please go and like them and give them all the love you can. They totally will deserve it. But for now, let's shut up and let's react to this. Let's find out more about Krampus, which I'm yet to see the film.
It was the night before Christmas, and with his parents and siblings fast asleep in their beds, little Timmy decided to sneak downstairs and open his presents early.
That little bugger, little Timmy, going opening his presents, that little bugger.
He was filled with excitement as he began to open everything.
Okay.
But when he finally got to his own present, Timmy was left looking down at a cold...
So he was opening other people's presents before his? That little bugger.
Hard lump of coal.
Classic.
The room went cold, and he could hear the rattling of chains behind him. This year there would be no visit from Santa. For those who misbehave will only be greeted by the shadow of Saint Nicholas.
Interesting.
The demon of Christmas. Krampus.
Unlucky, mate. Should have been a little turd.
To many of us, Christmas means a time.
That's what happens when kids are little turds. They get coal and Krampus. That's the way it is.
Time of joy, togetherness, and family. But if we're being honest, as kids, it also meant no school and a bunch of presents.
It's true.
There are those, however, unfortunate enough to experience the dark side of Christmas. Those who never got their visit from Santa. Misbehave and you'll be on Santa's naughty list.
This is the thing now that I'm a parent that I'm always debating with Steph. Like, what do we do about Santa? Because at the end of the day, like, making them feel like what happens if they've got a friend that's super rich and buys them a crap ton of presents from Santa and we can only afford a certain amount, and he makes him feel like he's not been as good as the other kid, when it really truthfully the other kid's just richer. Like, I don't really like the idea of it. I don't really know how I feel about the whole Santa giving you presents type of thing. I think it's just, I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe I'm too weird like that I just don't agree with it all that much.
But what if that list was more than just misbehaving children? What if that list was intended for someone else? There's nothing like tales of a demon who drowns, eats, and drags children off to hell to really get you into the Christmas mood.
It's true.
Jokes aside, Krampus is one of my personal favourites, and it's also a video that I've always wanted to come back to and improve upon.
Yeah, well.
Stories of Krampus have appeared throughout Central Europe as far back as pre-Christian Alpine tradition.
Damn.
This area covers a host of countries from Austria, Germany and Switzerland to parts of France, northern Italy, the Czech Republic and Slovenia.
Well, this is where it confuses me then, because isn't Saint Nicholas, wasn't he a Christian? And that's where they got the idea from. But this idea of Krampus is even further back. I know Christmas Day is kind of like a pagan holiday, I think, more than anything. So maybe it's because of that. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess.
Modern tales depict him as the not-so-friendly companion of Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus, who punishes the poorly behaved while Saint Nicholas rewards those who have been good. However, it may not have always been that way. When discussing Krampus, there are two distinct periods of time that give us entirely different stories. The initial period of pagan tradition, and then the period after of Christian tradition.
Guys, I'm just too good at this. I knew it was something to do with pagan origins.
We honestly don't know much about his earliest origin because most pagan traditions were either forgotten or absorbed into Christian traditions.
Hence
The most common
Christmas.
belief is that Krampus may have originated from a horn deity. And we know this extends further than just pagan beliefs because horn gods have existed in multiple cultures across the world.
That's so weird.
There is a similarity between Krampus and the ancient Greek satyr, both being quite rowdy and mischievous, but one is clearly more evil than the other.
Right.
In Old High German, the word Krampen meant claw, which could refer to a clawed monster, but just like everything else surrounding his origins, it's all pretty ambiguous.
Interesting.
The closest connection we can draw between Krampus pre- and post-Christian Alpine traditions are pagan festivals that took place during the winter, similar to Yule or winter solstice. During these festivals, men would dress up in masks and animal furs and parade around villages being a nuisance, which is
Who comes up with these ideas? Like, seriously, who comes up with these ideas? That's all. Guys, I got an idea. We're going to put on some scary masks. It's Christmas, right? It's Christmas. We're going to put on some scary masks. We're going to go terrorize people. What about police? What about people getting scared? It doesn't matter. It's all fun and games. It's all fun and games.
something they still do today, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So far, there's not been much to suggest that Krampus ever had anything to do with Christmas or Santa Claus, other than appearing at a similar time in the year. In both Austria and Germany, it wasn't uncommon for individuals to wear a devilish mask and make a nuisance of themselves during holidays which honoured Christian saints.
Okay.
This wasn't done as a tradition honouring Krampus, more so a pushback against the church, which had been phasing out these pagan beliefs and traditions. You can, however, make the argument that this would be the start of what we would see in the years that followed. If we go even further back, the closest thing we have to an origin for Krampus comes from a figure known in Austria as Percher. She was mentioned very briefly by the Brothers Grimm, and the best way I can describe her is as a combination of Santa Claus and Krampus. Rather than having the concept of good and evil shown by two separate entities, Percher represented both the reward and the punishment.
That's the thing, like, everything's always, like, black and white, like, you can only have, like, two sides of the coin. Like, either super good or super evil. When really and truthfully, the world's made up of everything in between, isn't it? That's why Game of Thrones was so successful. We're getting on a way a tangent right now. Because there was never anyone who was super good or super bad. It's just the way life is.
Midwinter, during what we would refer to as the 12 Days of Christmas or the Feast of the Epiphany, she would visit the homes of children. If they were good, then they would find a silver coin in one of their shoes the next morning.
Okay.
Sounds a lot like St. Nicholas, right?
That sounds cool. Get me some coins for being good. Uh-oh. That's kind of creepy. That's creepy. Oh, look at that! You got hands round her. Wow, that's creepy. That's really creepy. Not keen. Not keen.
No, because if they were bad, she would slit open their bellies, remove their stomach and guts, and fill the cavity with straw and pebbles before sewing it shut again. This also extended to anyone who ate anything other than meat, fish, or gruel during the day of her festival. To symbolize this duality, she appeared as a beautiful woman dressed in white, and other times as a withered old hag. Accompanying her were a group of spirits known...
That is weird, so you had to eat only meat. Well, I'm buggered because I'm plant-based. So I'm going to wake up with a bunch of straw in my belly and some pebbles, aren't I? Pooping out pebbles for days.
As the Perkton, who just like Percher also appeared in two different forms. The beautiful Perkton, who brought with them good fortune, and the ugly Perkton, who had fangs, tusks, and horsetails, not too different from Krampus himself. The ugly Perkton were used to ward off spirits and demons in one's home, similar to Halloween but in December. This led to men dressing up as these ugly Perkton and going from house to house driving out evil spirits, in what was known as...
Seriously, what are you doing on Friday night, guys? We're gonna drive away evil spirits by dressing up really weird and scaring the crap out of all the children.
The Perchtenlauf, or the Perchten Run. The church then seen these celebrations as a demonstration of immoral behaviour trying to stop these runs from taking place. But many Austrian villages just refused to comply, whilst others chose to dress someone up as St. Nicholas to accompany them on these runs as somewhat of a compromise.
Huh.
Around the 11th century, stories of St. Nicholas began to gain popularity, and this continued until the 16th century, where the form of Krampus that we know today really began to manifest. The church, still locked in a battle with the Austrian people over the Perchten, decided to just outright ban the Perchtenlauf. Not willing to give up entirely, the people then created a new creature, similar to the Perchten in appearance, but with a few key changes. This
That's what I look like when I wake up. When my kid's waking me up, it's stupid o'clock in the morning.
creature would now serve St. Nicholas, and would be known as Krampus, a hairy, horned and hooved demonic figure, with sharp fangs, long claws and an even longer tongue. At this point in time, he wasn't considered the only one of his kind. The Krampus referred to a race of monsters that appeared during the Yule period.
Oh, so there's more of them.
During this period, Christians would celebrate St. Nicholas.
It's a nice hat.
December 6 was known as St. Nicholas Day. Much like modern-day Christmas, St. Nicholas would deliver presents to those who had been good. Those who were not so good would get either a lump of coal or a twig.
Did he know? Did he? Excuse me. Have we got proof of that? Have we got proof of that?
To the church, the idea...
Maybe he was just bragging. Hey guys, by the way, yesterday I just went out and gave out a bunch of gifts to a bunch of kids. Really? You're a saint. Oh, cheers. It was nothing. It was nothing, guys. I just went and gave out a bunch of gifts. You know, some of them though were naughty. Give them some coal. Give them some coal. Oh, you're a saint. You're a saint.
The idea of these Krampus figures was still a symbol of heathenism, and so they decided to assimilate this belief into their own existing winter ceremonies.
As per.
Krampus was then paired with St. Nicholas. One symbolized good, and the other evil.
Okay.
He would then become associated with the idea of the Christian devil. He was given chains to symbolize the binding of the devil by the church. He now carried around birch sticks that he would use to beat misbehaving children with.
So is that where the devil with the horns kind of come from? Interesting.
On his back, he had a basket or a sack that he would throw those naughty children in when dragging them off to hell.
Oh, it's kind of like the SCP dude, the Yule guy for SCP, putting him in the bag. That was a good video.
If you were extremely poorly behaved, you may even be drowned or eaten. The night before St. Nicholas Day now became Krampusnacht, meaning Krampus night.
Krampus
December
night.
5th
That's
was
today,
the day
right?
this demon was allowed to roam the streets and villages.
The day before
It was
Christmas?
no longer St. Nicholas giving you a twig or a lump of coal. He was only concerned with the good children. The punishment of the rest fell to Krampus. It was fairly common for the church to integrate ideas and traditions from other cultures into their own when attempting to convert those from a different faith.
The church obviously used this horrific scare tactic to convince people to follow them. Because that's scary. If I was a kid and my parents were like, you know, there's this guy, his horn, he's got giant teeth, and he's going to eat you if you're not behaving. Or you can behave, come to church, and you'll get presents. That's kind of brainwashing, not going to lie. It's a bit of brainwashing right there.
Just turning up on someone's doorstep and telling them to stop believing in what they do because they're going to hell normally elicits a negative reaction.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Instead, showing them that there is a common ground in your beliefs is much more effective.
Right.
In this case, it was more so the Austrian people who adapted their beliefs into something more palatable to the church. And so the story of St. Nicholas and Krampus is a good example of how a heathen belief was integrated, despite the major differences.
Makes sense.
The tradition of St. Nicholas Day went through quite a major shift as a result of this. Going from St. Nicholas leaving you a twig if you were poorly behaved to being dragged off to hell by this giant demon goat monster.
That makes
But
sense.
if you were lucky, maybe you'd just be eaten or drowned in a lake.
If you're lucky, you'll just be eaten. Yeah. Proper lucky.
Quite the tonal shift. By the 16th century, stories of St. Nicholas began to be replaced. He now became Santa Claus, deriving from his Dutch name Sinterklaas, or
Okay.
Father Christmas if you live in the UK.
Yeah.
Stories of Krampus remain largely the same, and December 5th was still considered a Krampus night in many countries. With Christmas being celebrated on the 25th,
I'm not gonna lie, I'd never really heard of Krampus until recently, so this is all new to me.
it's only natural to then want to move Krampus night to Christmas Eve for those outside of the Alpine region. And that's why you may see this in various stories and movies, despite these celebrations and festivals taking place in early December.
Well, it's Christmas
These
Eve,
celebrations
guys.
can vary depending on the region. They often involve wearing a wooden mask, dressing up in fur, and
That's
attempting
gross.
to look as terrifying as possible. In some towns, it's more humorous, and in others, it's slightly more scary.
Yeah,
but
I was
it's all
gonna say.
mostly done in good fun. The most popular of these traditions is the Krampuslauf, or the Krampus Run, which
Krampus
is
Run.
essentially the same as the Perchtenlauf. Groups of people dress up as Krampus wearing large bells so they can be heard as they roam the streets in packs accompanied by a Saint Nicholas.
I bet it's a good night. I bet it's a right laugh. Honestly, I bet it is.
What exactly they do depends on how they're feeling. Some just scare children and passers-by, some throw snow at them, and others whip them around the back of the leg. Then you have those who visit houses giving presents, and in exchange they're given schnapps and brandy. So it's pretty much
Interesting.
just adult trick-or-treating.
Yeah, it's just a way of getting some bevies. That's basically what happened. Was a bunch of parents got together and were like, look, all these kids get to go around and get chocolate from other houses. Can we not change this so that we get a couple bevies? Let's go to a house, we'll do a trick or treat, we'll get some brandy. All is good.
And it's also a pretty good excuse to walk around being a massive douche for a day.
Yeah.
In parts of Austria, twigs would be painted gold and left around the house all year round as a reminder for children to behave. In the 1800s, Krampus could be found on greeting cards, postcards, and on the wrappers of candy. These
Jeez.
depictions were rather odd and often quite distasteful.
Yeah.
They feature Krampus as a more devilish figure with a sexual undertone. And this stems from those in large cities never really seeing these traditions. All they had to go by was the word of the church, who equated Krampus to the devil.
Yeah.
In terms of his story, these images do make sense, but it's not hard to imagine why some wouldn't find them suitable. It's also why over the years they've gone from frightening to more comical, in order to
Yeah.
appeal to a larger audience. What's nice to see is that these festivals and Krampus runs still take place today, and not just in towns and cities within.
It's cool that people are still taking that tradition up and still doing it, even though, you know, some people see it weird, like especially if they're Christians or whatever, they seem to think it's more towards the devil when it's not. With their culture, it's kind of classic pagan cultures. That kind of makes sense. That's kind of cool.
In Austria and Germany, but all around the world, even popping up in parts of North America. There's no doubt that stories of Krampus and those predating him have a dark tone to them, but to say that he's just evil doesn't really
Right.
tell the whole story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Before they were Christianized, the Perchtons served as protective spirits, and Krampus only really came to as St. Nicholas's companion as a way to keep these traditions alive. Even then, he merely punishes those who were deemed as deserving. He doesn't
That
commit
makes
acts
sense.
of evil against the innocent, and therefore he can be seen as representing a necessary evil. For many, this whole spectacle was and still is a time of fun and expression.
Yeah.
Even today, families take their children to these events and festivals.
You have to remember, Christmas is a time where everyone's stuck in the house, so people are bored, they want to get out, they want to have some fun, so it made sense that back in the day this would happen.
To them, Krampus is more of a Disney villain than a terrifying demonic story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
To me, Krampus and St. Nicholas represent our very own nature. We can be good and we can be evil. But in order for society to function, you need incentive for the good and you need consequence for the bad, even if that is in the form of a hairy demonic goat monster. If just like me you can't get enough of Krampus, then why not check out our original story, Krampus Night? And if you're lucky, episode 2 of Dark World may even be out before the end of the year.
Okay.
But I wouldn't hold your breath. Unless you're being drowned by Krampus, because in that case you probably want to hold it as long as you can. As always,
Fair one.
I've been your host,
Fair
Mythology and Fiction Explained, wishing
This
you
guy's
all
awesome.
a very merry Krampus night.
That guy's awesome. That guy's awesome. Make sure you go and send this dude some love. His videos are phenomenal. It's Mythology and Fiction Explained. I'll leave a link down below for the original video. That was a ton of fun. Also, really interesting to see kind of how the idea of Christmas has kind of evolved over time with influences from other cultures and other kind of belief systems. Very interesting, guys. I love me learning some history. I'm a bit of a history buff, if you didn't know, and I also love me some weird mythology stuff. I'm a big fan of mythology, so that really tickled my fancy. I know I'm going to be watching a lot more of this channel, this Mythology and Fiction Explained, because that was brilliant. But before we go, members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. Links down below to all the usual stuff: Instagram, Discord, Twitter, website, merch, my second channel, my podcast, and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Other than that, guys, no video tomorrow. It's Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas. Have a great time with the family. Enjoy yourself. I know I'll be eating a bunch of food and trying to relax, trying to catch up on some sleep, and just spending most of the time with the family. I will be back on Saturday and Sunday with more reaction videos, and then Monday with the usual last video of Doom and a stream. So yeah, I'll see you on the weekend, guys. Have a great holiday. I love you all. Merry Christmas and goodbye.